Yes, bro. Hare Krishna. Today we gonna recite and get the explanation on Bhagavad Gita 2.28. So we'll start by reciting the verse and then we'll followed by the translation. So you repeat after me. Then I'll read one purport paragraph of Srila Prabhupada and then we'll go on explaining it. So you can start along with me. Avyaktadini bhutani
अव्यक्तानि भूतानि
व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत
मध्यानि
अव्यक्तनिधनान्यैव
एव
तत्र का परिदेवना.
प्रकामरिजीवन.
So translation: all created beings are unmanifest in their beginning.
All created beings are
Unmanifest in their beginning,
unmanifested in their beginning,
manifest in their interim state,
manifest in their interim state,
and unmanifest again when annihilated. Unmanifest
and
again.
unmanifested again when annihilated.
So what need is there for lamentation?
So what need is there for lamentation?
So I'll read the purport, the first paragraph. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul and the other not believing in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet even if for argument's sake we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From this subtle state of non-manifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether air is generated. From air, fire is generated. From fire, water is generated. And from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The laws of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time, things are manifest and unmanifest. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation either in the stage of manifestation or in unmanifestation? Some or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested and only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference. So if we see the explanation, now Prabhupada's purport is really inclusive. No, he is not only appealing the people who believe in the existence of the soul, but he is also talking about people who don't believe in the existence of soul. So both cases the lamentation is not required. Now Krishna is actually stressing the point how we are not slightly but radically different from the body. Now if we see the soul, it is Sat, Chit, Anand. So it is eternal, blissful and conscious. But if we see the material body, then it is Asit, Achit and Nirananda. It is temporary, it is unconscious and it is derived of happiness. So why we take this body so seriously? Now if we see the time of unmanifestation and manifestation, then comparatively it is very small section. We might live for 50 years, 60 years, 100 years. But this lifetime is very small if we see from the spiritual platform. Now in that small section only we get so much attached to the things. We started thinking this is all in all. I am this body and everything that belongs to this body is mine. As we said, aham mameti. So if we are in this bodily conception, what will happen is, what we live with, we actually start living for. That means we are living with this material body, but we are starting living for this material body and we start doing all that things which will satisfy our senses, which will satisfy the bodily connections and all. Now what will happen if we start doing this, we actually entangle more and more in this material world, and when the time comes when we have to leave everything and go, or the things leave us, we actually start lamenting because we thought that these things will be staying with us forever. Now when we see this 2.28, it is saying that they interimly they manifest and unmanifest again, so this is not going to stay forever. So when Arjuna was lamenting, how can I kill my parent, how I kill my grandfather or the relatives and all, so he was actually thinking on a material platform. So Krishna is elevating Arjuna from that material platform to the eternal platform, where he's saying like we all exist as a soul eternally, so why not just focus on that rather than lamenting for this. Now we often see that people saying truth is bitter, truth hurts and all, but if we see this truth of that we are soul and we are going to live eternally, this is very empowering, because we all actually living for happiness, but once we come to know that we don't need to live or do the things for happiness, because natural state as a soul we are already happy. We all are afraid of death, and when we come to know that as a soul we eternally exist, then actually this is a very relieving truth. So when we know this, we actually start doing things on an eternal platform. Suppose we are knowing that we are only this body, then everything that we do is related to this body. But when we come to know that we are souls and eternal parts and parcels of Krishna, and we are the eternal servants, then we start doing our activities in that context. Now Prabhupada talks about dreams and skyscrapers, which are actually coming for the small time and it is going. So before we sleep, the dreams are in unmanifested stage, and when we are asleep they manifest, and when we wake up they unmanifest again. So we don't take things in the dream, whatever happens, not seriously, we don't take it. So similarly, whatever is happening in our life, we take so much seriously because we don't think that it is a dream, we think it is only the reality. So when we start looking this from the eternal platform, the way we look at life will change. If we take the story of Kamsa, when he heard the celestial voice saying, Devaki's eighth son will be your cause of death. So then what happens? Kamsa is very attached to his body. So once he heard the celestial voice, he started taking the action to stop this inevitable thing. So he started taking his sword and to behead his sister on the same marriage day. So Vasudeva was there and he gives a nice philosophy to Kamsa. So he says, Kamsa, don't you know that whether it's eighth son of Devaki or the eighth son of someone else or some other reason, you are going to die one day. So why to take this so much seriously and create one more sin of killing your own sister and entangle yourself in the same repetition of birth and death? So what happening is, when we are attached to this body, we do so many things which actually, rather than liberating us from the lamentation and miseries, they actually create more and more lamentation situations and more miseries in our life. So when we start living from the eternal platform, when we start seeing ourselves as a soul, eternal servants of Krishna, our life will start changing. And rather than be using our body for suffering and bondage, we will start using our body for the happiness and liberation. So the conclusion is, live in the present. Like some people will ask, okay, if we are soul, should we neglect this body? No, whatever body we are given, that has to be used in the service of Krishna. So if we want to use it in the service of Krishna, then we have to keep it healthy also. So whatever it takes to keep the body healthy, to maintain it, that we have to do. But we should not have a conscious like this body is all in all. But we are souls and eternal part and parcels of Krishna, so we have to serve him. That's the reason we are taking care of this body. So in that context, if we start living, then the things will be different for us. And how this can happen? By taking shelter of Guru Parampara, by chanting the holy names, by having Krishna Prasanga, by having association of devotees, by reading scriptures and hearing Krishna Katha. All these things will actually make us realize, because today we are talking that we are not body and soul. So this talk will not be the realization. This is on an intellectual level it is happening. But if we want to convert this intellectual thing into realization, then we have to practice. And like every other process, bhakti is also a curative process. So it will take time. And if we are consistent in our bhakti and if we continue this, then surely one day we will start living in a Brahmabhuta stage where there is no lamentation and no hankering. As Prabhupada says in one of the purport that Sagunan Samatityaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So once we realize this truth, we transcend these three modes of material nature, and that's how we live for liberation and we can serve happily. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I am done with explanation.
Questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Very nicely explained, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have a question at here.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no need of lamentation. Okay, anyway they are going to die. But my relation, like Arjuna relation with Bhishma, that relation is, I cannot, that relation will break no, if I kill him.
Okay.
So you got it from what I said?
So your question is?
Okay, anyway people are going to die. For example, in war, Arjuna has to face Bhishma Pitamaha.
Right.
But if he kill him, his relation may not be there for him.
Right. So why he should kill?
He may miss his relation.
Right.
Yes.
So
I'm not talking about killing, but lamentation will be there for him.
Right. So okay, that is the question. Govardhan Prabhu, your question is the lamentation will be there because if he kills, then that relationship will not be there. He will miss. So that's why lamentation is there. Right? So even if he doesn't kill, over a period of time, Bhishma has to die. So, however, he is not going to have that relationship eternally. And just because he will not have the relationship, if he stop killing, then what will happen is he will disobey the Krishna's order. So to establish dharma, this war has to be fought and Bhishma has to be killed. So if Arjuna is thinking only from the material platform, then he will miss Bhishma's relationship by killing him. But if he starts seeing life in an eternal platform, then by obeying the Krishna's order, he is actually doing good. So in our life also most of the times we will do this. In the verge of missing someone, we actually don't do the things that are supposed to be done. So on a temporary basis, we might think we have done a good thing, but in an ultimate perspective, we have actually not done any service to them. We have done disservice to them. So that's what I think, Prabhuji. Does that answer your question, Govardhan Prabhu?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Any other question?